So if you missed my last video, this is my new Windows 98 DOS gaming machine that I've got. Celeron 1.7, 256 megabyte RAM, 10 gig hard drive, and that's about it really. It's got onboard video, onboard sound, and in the last video we had some issues with the sound in DOS games. It's working fine in Windows 98, very capable Windows 98 machine. But just some sound issues when I was playing DOS games, a little bit of crackling on some of the sort of sampled sounds, like in games like Duke 3D. So I went ahead and ordered myself a Soundblaster Live to try and install into the machine, see if I can improve the sound issues in DOS. I think it's something to do with the onboard sound. It's kind of a software sort of emulated sound on these sort of early 2000s, late 90s motherboards. So I got a package, came through yesterday. I have actually already unboxed it, but I recorded the unboxing, so I'll splice that in, and then once we've done that, we'll go and we'll start trying to install the card in the machine and have a bit of a play around with some drivers and things and see if we can get it working. And then we'll have a look at some games and see if we've got an improvement, and I'll show you a few different games as well that I've been playing around with and installed on it. This is what I've been delivered today, so let's go and have a look and see what I've got here. Unbox this. Should be Soundblaster Live, Creative Soundblaster Live. Open this. That's it packaged. Let's see what we've got in here. Here. A nice little personal note here. So it's a vintage Creative Labs Soundblaster Live 5.1 CT 4830. You can read that very well, but it's a PCI sound card. Nice personal note there from the seller. I believe it's some sort of online store. I don't think it's a private seller, but Fair Acre. There we go. So we've got an anti-static bag. It's in here. Let's see what's inside. Just earth myself. Let's find something metal to earth myself to. Just touching the back of my other PC case. It's quite a tight bag, this. I'm assuming this isn't the original bag, otherwise I don't think it'll get this tight. Oh, very tight. Right, there we go. There we are. Right, so what we've got here, we've got the Soundblaster Live. Looks clean, can't see any issues on there. Various headers on it. So it's a model CT4830. We've got a sticker on the back, the serial number, everything on. Right, okay, so I'm going to try and get this installed, try and set it up, and we'll see if it enhances any of my the sound quality I'm getting on the DOS games. I'm going to install this Soundblaster Live inside the machine here. Obviously it's going to slot into one of these PCI slots. Now you'll notice I've got it still got it plugged in, and there's a good reason for that. I don't know if it's something that other people have learned before, but in the UK we can switch off our sockets. We have socket switches on most of our sockets, but I was always told that, which I'm sure is true, that the earth is still always connected. So that means that I can actually earth myself just by touching the sort of case, which I think is always quite useful when you're handling electronics like this. You don't want to be sending sort of large static, high voltage static sort of pulses through your tiny little components. So it's just a trick I always learn. Always, obviously, make sure it is switched off at the mains if you're going to be playing around with this. I mean, you see a lot of YouTubers actually sort of working on live sort of systems, and I suppose there's a certain amount of risks and things doing that, but I won't be doing that. But here we go. We've got this Soundblaster live. I'll slot this in, and I'll just explain to you one of the first issues that I actually had. So that's just slotted in nice and solid there, and that was looking for PC screws. I don't know what you call these, but the little screws that you get in that are used to secure the pieces. I've always just called them PC screws. I didn't have any to hand. I thought I did. I didn't have any to hand at all. And obviously these slots don't use PC screws on the blanking plates there. They're just sort of hooked in. And the obviously there's two cards slots and two blanking plates missing, so there's nothing there to support to take out and replace. So I've just borrowed a PC screw from, it was just screwed in down here, and I think it's holding in place a bit of whatever this is. I think this is something to do with a USB sort of external socket housing. I've taken the screw out just there at the front. It doesn't seem to have made any difference, so there's nothing loose or moving there, so I'm just going to borrow that screw. I can probably replace it at a later date. So I'll just screw this in, which is a bit tricky, so if I just get the screw bitten on a bit first, and I can just make sure that the card is in, hold the card in place whilst I just tighten it up to make sure it's nice and secure. That's it. So the card's in. I've already downloaded the drivers, what I believe are the drivers from the Vogon's website, which is the original installation driver discs. So I'm going to give those a try. Obviously, if I'm still not getting great results, I might try updating the drivers, see if I can find the later versions of the drivers, but I'll try with the original drivers first and see what happens. So I'll just get this all wired up and kitted up, and then we'll have a look at the driver installation. So I have changed some settings on my monitor actually since the last video. I've put it into the 4:3 aspect ratio. Windows 98, I mean, it does handle some sort of, not exactly widescreen resolutions, but something similar to widescreen resolutions, but I thought I'd go for something a bit more authentic for the time. So we've got 4:3 ratio, and it's obviously going to be better for DOS games because they'll run in that aspect ratio. So I just want to disable the onboard graphics and sound, not graphics, the onboard sound and game port as well, because obviously the Soundblaster comes with its own game port. So I'll just have a look through here. So advanced power settings, integrated peripherals. Let's have a look here. So I'm going to disable the AC97 audio, which I believe is the onboard audio chip that's doing all this emulating Soundblaster and all that. And I'll disable the game port and the MIDI port as well. CIR port. Not sure what CIR port is. It's already disabled anyway, isn't it? So let's leave that. So that should be everything disabled. So that should just leave it nice and clear, so I don't have any confusion when I'm installing the Soundblaster drivers. Just have a look in the BIOS whilst we're here. Actually, it's quite interesting. Let's look at the frequency voltage, and like I said, it's set to 15 times, and obviously the CPU clock is set to 15 times. There's a multiplier of 15 times on the bus speed, which is set to 100. So it should be running at 1.7 gigahertz. This processor. So I didn't know whether actually to increase the host frequency, because I can actually increase that if I enable the CPU host clock control, or whether this is optimum for Windows 98. You might have some advice to that. I'm not sure. what the best thing is to do. I mean, it's running perfectly fast enough for me. I sometimes have a bit of slowdown, mostly on hard drive, but I think everything's bottlenecking on that hard drive, on the IDE, on the bus speed. So maybe increasing the bus would improve that. I don't know if the hard drive would show any improvement, so you might have some advice for me around that. But I mean, it runs perfectly fine. It's just sometimes it's accessing the hard drive. Obviously, the whole thing grinds to a halt. That's clearly where the bottleneck is. Don't think there's anything else in here that we need to have a look at. So I'll save the settings and exit the setup, and then let's have a look, see what happens when we first boot it up. I haven't booted into Windows since I plugged this card in, so it's probably going to detect something new. Hopefully we get better display in Windows now, because I've reduced the brightness settings on the screen as well as changing the aspect ratio, so hopefully that'll just improve the picture that you get in there. There's a bit of a flicker on there, and you know, I think that's to do with sort of, I haven't got the best camera. I can't adjust the sort of the frequencies and things like that, but so maybe if I could get a better camera to record on, I could get a better picture. Right, so it's detected a PCI multimedia device. I'll see if you can actually install a driver itself, because I haven't actually copied the drivers across from my other PC yet, so I'll do that in a sec, but I'll see what it does if I just let the Windows search for the best driver for the device. We'll see what it comes up with. It's probably not going to find anything. Right, so I'll leave the driver now, so it's just come as an unknown device, which is fine. PCI input controller, which I'm guessing is the game port. Again, it's not found any drivers for that device, which is fine, because I'm fine. I'm happy to copy them across and use the drivers off the disk. I've copied the file across there. You can't see it very sort of clearly, but I've tried to improve it from the last video a bit. The brightness, reduce the brightness down a bit, so it's a bit less blurry, the screen. But here's the file. I'm just going to open that. I've had to install 7-zip because a lot of the files you download from that sort of period seem to come in this sort of 7-zip format. I mean, they still do today, to be honest with you. I'm just going to use that because it's a free tool. I've got WinZip on it here. Obviously, it's an unlicensed copy, like everybody has, you know. But so I've got 7-zip and WinZip on it. Right, I'm just going to extract this. There we go. Extract it into drivers. That's the NSP install disk, and it's over 100 megabytes. Is this about 125 megabytes? Is this installation? I think it's the full installation disk for the Soundblaster Live card, but I'm actually not going to install it. I'm going to I'm not going to install all the software and everything. You know, I don't want a lot of bloatware on here, so I'm just going to select the actual drivers themselves and just update the drivers. So I'll just like I say, any hard drive activity, anything when it's accessing the hard drive is quite slow. So I'll just skip past that bit, but let's have a look, see what we've got in here. So we've got quite a few things in this disk. I'm looking for the actual drivers themselves, which aren't jumping out at me. Looking these well, let's see if I can get the if I point it just at this disk folder that I've copied across, see if I can get it to actually update. Go into my computer, so you right click my computer, click on properties, device manager. There we go, we've got the two devices here that it hasn't quite found yet, so I'm going to click on the multimedia audio device first, click on the driver, update driver, and let's see if I point it at this directory. I keep using the term directory, obviously that's the what we always used to call them before. You tend to call them folders now. I know they look like folders, but you know, I'm more from the sort of classic DOS age when we call them directories. Right, still unable to locate a driver. This is this. I mean, I could run the actual installation, the auto run off here, but I'd rather just install the drivers sort of pure, and then I'm not installing a load of I haven't found anything in there. Setup, no, nothing. Right, okay, well, I'll just have a quick browse around, and I'm going to try installing it from the actual installation disk. So I'll go into the auto run. If you look at that, it points towards the ctrun.exe, which is in the ctrun directory. So I'm going to have a look at. I'm just going to run that. Let's go for English. Right, now this is what I mean about all the bloatware that it's trying to install. We've got all these other pieces of software that it wants to install, which I don't want any of these. Just want the Soundblaster Live. I don't want anything running in the background and slowing down my machine, so I'll just disable all those and just select the Soundblaster Live value. See what happens. Okay. Wants me to register. Continue without registering. Do not remind me to register. I'm not going to register my 20-year-old piece of hardware with Soundblaster. Right, just running the master installation setup. But it couldn't detect the card, but now it seems to have come up into this Soundblaster Live installation. So I think I'm going to do a custom installation. No. Only driver's only installation, that's what I want, so I'll select that one. For some reason it said it couldn't detect the card, and it's funny because when I just rebooted it before, and it came up with, when I went back into device manager, it wasn't showing up there anymore. There was no longer the you know, the devices, so I might have to just have a bit of a mess about with this, see if I can get it working. But I mean, this is the fun of playing around with old machines, isn't it? It's trying to get things to work. These are the sort of things that I'd have probably got working first time back in the day, because I knew more what I was doing. But it's kind of a relearning experience, isn't it? Right, so we've got sort of creative Soundblaster 16 emulation, we've got creative port, creative SD Live, we've got creative Soundblaster Live series under sound, video and game controllers. So hopefully that should be everything working. Let's close that then. So let's just try a Windows game just to see what happens. So I'll show you Shogo, if I can get that one working, because that was one I couldn't get working the other day, but it's I got it working. I actually did manage to get it working, and if you read in my comments, the way I managed to get it working was by using a USB mouse. For some reason the PS2 mouse wouldn't work, so let me just unbox my PS2 mouse, sorry, my USB mouse. I'll just pause it while I plug it in. So I've got this other USB mouse, which is a much more modern mouse. I don't know why the original PS2 mouse won't work. PS2 is a much older standard, but for some reason just couldn't get it to work in game. So let's have a quick look at this, and I'll show you why I like this game. so much. The sounds pretty clear, no issues there. Don't know if it's better than it was, or it's hard to say really, but it certainly sounds fairly clear, doesn't it? Lights causing some. So it's a very anime sort of style game. Let's load it where I was up to before. The weapons on this, the just the feel of it, the way you sort of move around, feels really good. Let's see if I can get a different weapon. I can't remember. Let's see. Now this weapon here, this is kind of launches these mines, sort of attach. There's quite a lot of blood on this game, but rocket launcher on. That's a rocket launcher there, so really good explosions. Every you get sort of like good sort of debris flying, which actually does you damage if you stand too close to it. Good sort of blast radiuses, but every weapon is an actual sort of projectile. It's not like the old ones which were you know, you just fire and then suddenly there would be damage would appear on the enemy in the distance. It would actually oh, hang on, so these are actual mechs that I'm fighting against now, yeah, so I mean, it's not too hard this game at this point, but I found some sort of lift here, so I don't know if this is building up to the boss fight. Anyway, I'll quit that one. So the all sound seems to be working perfectly well in Windows. I'll try and test out the CD-ROM in a bit just to see if I've managed to wire that up correctly. So let's go down into DOS and see if the sound's improved in DOS. So if I just type in set now, this is what I'm looking for, is the blaster setting. So the IRQ is set to 7, which is quite unusual. We've got 330 for the that'll be the MIDI port sort of address. So they're the two that I need, and the 220 as well. They're the numbers that I need. So if we go into DOS games, let's go into Duke 3D, because that's got, you know, we can use the testing. We can use the setup utility just to test these now. Let's see if we get a better sound quality. Right, sound setup. So choose card. So it's set to Soundblaster. That's fine. Right, I need to change the. So it's 220. Interrupt. Change that to 7. I can't remember. I don't know if the DMA channels to the 8-bit and the 16-bit are different, but I'll leave those the same. See what happens. So let's test the sound effects. That's not working. Let's have a go with the music card. So let's set that to. So it's Soundblaster to start with. Let's test the music. Not working at all now, is it? Let's try general MIDI, see if it'll emulate that. Was that 300 or was it 330? I think it was 330, wasn't it? Let me test that. Oh, right, we're not getting anything on there. So there's something else we need to do to get this working in DOS. So I finally got this working after a bit of tinkering around. There was a few things I had to mess about with, but what I actually realised was that I think it was actually the game port that was the problem for some reason. Maybe I need to get the right drive for the game port or something, but I found that when I didn't have the joystick plugged in, I could actually get the sound working fine. I did have to do a few other changes as well. I had to force the IRQ to be at 5, so I had to do that in the BIOS for that particular PCI slot. That seemed to help. Disable the parallel port, although that was more because I was trying to use IQ 7 before, so that might not have been necessary. Yeah, eventually I managed to get this working, sort of with a bit of messing about. So let's just show you. And I think it seems to have fixed the issues that I was having before. So if we go into my DOS games, let's go into Duke 3D, because the setup is a really good little tool just for testing the sounding under DOS. So I've set it to Soundblaster 16, I think I've set it to. Go into the setup, yeah, Soundblaster 16 or raw 32. Current interrupt set as 5. And the music card I've set as the sound canvas. Like I say, it should emulate a sound canvas, should this card. So let's test the sound now. I'll crank that up a little bit, but and previously there was quite a lot of crackling on that when I was using the onboard sound, so now we've got rid of that crackling, got a much sort of clearer sound, which is what I was hoping for, and so it's fairly successful. And then the music card, which to be fair was actually working before in with the onboard card in Duke Nukem, but not in some other games. So if we go into Duke Nukem 3D, now to me the sound just sounds better. I'm not sure, maybe just sounds better quality to me. I don't know if it's just my ears, but it's definitely not getting that crackling that I was getting on before, so I'm quite pleased with this. So much better experience I'm getting at the moment, so I'm really pleased with that for Duke Nukem. Right, let's just get out of Duke Nukem and we'll go into try something else. So one game I tried that the MIDI didn't work, I couldn't get any music on, was Wolfenstein 3D. And this just detects everything for it as Wolfenstein 3D. It's definitely the first person shooter I ever played. It's well respected as one of the first sort of 3D or 2.5D games. But you can hear we've got the sound in the background there now, which I wasn't getting any sound. I was getting the sound effects, but no sound on this one. So this is one there where the MIDI just wasn't working, the MIDI support. So let's load the game I was in the middle of. So this is Duke Nukem 3D. Controls are a little bit awkward on this. You can play it on mouse, but it's actually probably easier just to play it on keyboard. But it's strafing, like in modern games where your strafe is you automatically strafe when you press left and right. There's no way of actually setting it to strafe. You can't lock the strafe on, so you've got to hold Alt to actually strafe on this game, which is just a little bit awkward. It certainly makes it awkward to play with a mouse. So Duke Nukem 3D is working nicely here. Some more baddies in there that have So we'll come out of that one, and then I'll just show you TIE Fighter, because I know I was playing TIE Fighter before and I couldn't get any music working on it at all. So it is set up in DOS mode, is TIE Fighter, but I have to load it from the CD. So I've already tested the music and set up the music in here, so it should be working fine now. Get some nice introductions on, intros on this game. then if we'll just have to get the joystick out. Here we go. Here's one I prepared earlier. So centre. Not sure if the joystick just needs a little bit of cleaning or something. That front button's sometimes a bit intermittent, so you can hear we've got the background music constantly playing now, which we didn't have before. So let's go for a TIE bomber. Still level 2. Slightly adjusting the joystick. We've got these little adjustment knobs on the joystick, so I can adjust it. Yeah, that main button's just a little bit dodgy sometimes. I think I might need to maybe have a look inside, check all the connections on it. It's not working as well as it should do. But anyway, that's something else I need to work on. But yeah, this is working nicely now. The sound sounds a lot better. Yeah, well, neither of my buttons are working properly now. There is a sort of turbo button on this, and I wonder if it's something to do with the turbo. It's got a bit of cardboard jammed in it, which it did have. Anyway, alright, I'll stop playing that. Going to DOS. So I showed you Shogo. The other games that I was trying to get working the other day were Shogo and Need for Speed, wasn't it? So let's just show you Need for Speed. This is Need for Speed 3. That's Electronic Arts. Need for Speed 3. Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. Now this game you can play on the joystick, but I don't think the flight joysticks are best for driving games. I struggle a bit with them, so I tend to play it. I think in the old days I used to have a Gravis Exterminator and something with a little analog sort of gamepad type thing, which was quite suitable for playing sort of driving games. I never had a driving wheel or anything like that, but that'd have been nice. But there was only so much you could afford at the time. Let's just do a single race. Car. Switch cars. Like the Lamborghini Diablos were always my favourite for the time. That'll do. Let's go straight for into the game. And this has got 3D acceleration. It's using direct 3D acceleration. It can play it in sort of widescreen modes, but again, this is probably the mode that I would be playing at the time.
3, 2, 1, go!
I've got all the details and everything set up to high on this game, so I mean, to be honest with you, it doesn't look as good as I remember, but it still looks, for the time I remember it looking absolutely incredible, the graphics on this game. You know, the shading, the lighting, you can see the lighting coming through the windows there. You get, when you go through these tunnels, you can see the lighting coming in. I think for the time I hadn't really seen sort of effects like that. It's quite impressive. So yeah, so this is Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 3. You can see all the sound and everything's working perfectly on it. In Windows mode this game obviously, so there's no issues there. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased generally with how things have turned out. Obviously a little bit more messing around than I was expecting. I was hoping to show you every stage of the sort of installation process, but as you know, with these things we always get niggles and problems, but it seems to be working as I want to, and I've improved that problem with the sound quality.